session will be about analytics use case in organizations. So this is a series. We had one 2 weeks ago when we were looking at the metrics. So this is a continuation of the metrics one. Yeah, just trying to give you an indication of how you can apply this sort of mindset in identifying use cases within your organization that you can solve. So yeah, so the session will take about 1 hour, and as usual, there'll be areas where I'll be asking you a few questions to just go to the chat box and jot in a few comments. So I want to just start with the first part, just to try to understand from your own perspective. So besides reporting, monitoring performance, and regulatory compliance, what are other applications of organizational analytics in your use? For example, maybe what your client asks you to do if you're in consulting. Oh, if you're within finance, you're within HR, you're within marketing, what are some of the use cases internally for uh, analytics? So just type here quickly in about 2 minutes. We just want to see what various use cases you use analytics for your organization. Yeah, so I'll just give you about 30 seconds to 1 minute to reflect and type in the answer in that box. Yeah, are we together? I'm expecting some answers from you. Okay, Sanjay, yeah, so I've seen your reply. Understanding customer better means being able to model products and services that will appeal to customers in the near future. Thank you. Yeah, Marcy, I can see yours. Loan issues. Okay. Yeah, that's another. I guess from you, employee satisfaction and comparison year on year. All right. Yeah, so you can see, yeah, more and more comments coming in. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the kind of applications of analytics in the organization. And this needs either generated internally and externally, because you can see some of the comments you're putting there. It's external, for example, understanding your customers is external. Yeah. Understanding industry benchmarking, thanks Ken, it's also external. Yeah, so you may want to do the analysis to uh, benchmark against your competitors. So I just want to give you a short preview. So as I talk, I want you to go to that website. Yeah, it's our website. So we posted some KPIs there. I want you to look and flip through. My next question will be surrounding that. So those of you in customer, I want you to go to that website. There, those of you in HR, I'll just share yours briefly. So Those of you in HR, you can visit that link just to see what are some of the issues that you can measure within your organization. And as I proceed, I'll pause in for a moment to ask a few questions. So yeah, after about 30 minutes, I will ask you about what are the key KPIs that you found appealing among those two. Yeah, so we have other links, but just for now, that's sufficient. I'll proceed to the next. Now, for example, these are some of the questions, and I got these examples from a HR team that we worked before with. So these are some of the questions that HR, for example, might want to analyze. You can see the kind of questions there. Yeah. So can we accurately forecast our workforce needs in the future? What percent of our workforce is customer facing or revenue generating? What is the trend? What can we model our workforce to optimize cost, profit, and productivity? What is our workforce productivity? Is it higher than peers? And these questions go on and on and on and on. So if you look at the trend of these questions and you look at how you can embed your analytic strategy on it, it reveals one key thing. So this presentation is about helping you to identify where do you prioritize, how do you make use of the available resources that you have, both internally and externally, and being able to create case by case argument for your organization to invest in analytic resources. Yeah. So I want to just start by going back to this evolution of this discussion we're having. We've first seen that because of ability of computers, smartphones, and connected devices, we're generating a lot more data. So whereas we have some traditional industries like finance, which have a regulatory compliance to report. For example, we are required by law to submit audit reports of listed companies. Yeah, it's also a requirement. Yeah, we internally get reports to stakeholders about the performance of an organization in terms of the P&L. Yeah, but we are now seeing need to look beyond the regulatory compliance, start looking at other alternative sets of data which are being generated. And that's what's driving big data. So I want you to keep that in mind as we discuss about analytics. Yeah, so it's going beyond what you do in your day-to-day reporting. So if you look at the KPIs, and the last time we were trying to differentiate between KPIs and metrics, yeah, and analytics. So KPIs are metrics. Those are traditional descriptive reporting data types. But when you talk about analytics, we are looking at data being generated from other sources. How are you pulling it together? How are you processing it so that you can make head or tail of a business problem like listed out here? Okay? So this huge data that's generated every second can be stored, it can be analyzed in real time. And we've been giving you knowledge around how you can store this data. For example, the session we had on Saturday around data engineering was showing you how you can store voice data, how you can show video data, and how you can store image data, and also data from social media. So when you store that data, it means that you also have to apply algorithms that can be able to compute. Now that is bringing in a new challenge because we are not well prepared to process and analyze that data. And if you look at this course, we've designed it in such a way that it gives you a view of the new technologies that are coming up to enable you as a profession to leverage the opportunities that are emerging in terms of storage of that data, processing of that data, without having a limitation of using only a unilateral singular type of data, which is the SQL structured type of data. So the other competitive issue is we need to start analyzing this data, yeah, process, storage, and analyze at less costs. So because we're saying that traditional infrastructures for storage are quite like what we call enterprise storage tools are quite expensive to manage. We are now moving into what we call commodity kind of storage, where you go and lease a storage facility and use it at that given time. So one of the key imperatives for you as professionals is to identify those lower cost options that you have for storage and analysis of this data. And that's why we are talking about open source tools. Yeah. Whereas you might already have invested in enterprise solutions like Oracle, Power BI, SAP, Touch, all those tools that have got modules for analytics. But the key imperative here is to do it at a lower cost, yeah, and analyze complex data sets. When you use Oracle, when you use SAP, the some of the models are cast in stone. You cannot recalibrate them. Yeah, but when we experience the work that we'll be doing under Python, it means you can break down a model, put up a structure, combine it with different sources from different data, and analyze it at your own comfort without having to worry about the cost of building that model or cost of building that application. So this is just some of the foundational discussions that this course is all about. And as we move forward, I'd like now to draw your attention to the type of analysis that we do. So we've been mentioning about analyzing the past, which is descriptive, historical analysis. And this is where the KPIs sit. When you look at the KPIs, mostly on metrics, they always analyze performance year on year, yeah, same year, same month, first year performance. So it's always about the historical performance. We are trying to enrich this value, this narrative by saying, now let's start looking into the future. How can we start forecasting? How can we start building models that can give us a view of what the future looks like, so that perhaps the value that we extract from the data we stored is not historical, but it's in the future. I don't know whether you can hear me because I seem to have lost my screen here. Yes, shortly, you can hear me. Sure. You can hear me? Seem to have lost my screen. Just a minute as I set it. Okay, yeah, it's back. All right, I don't know what happened. Maybe Kevin, maybe you can check on your side something. My screen just disappeared. Yeah, so what are some of the things we're talking about? And just to recap what I've been saying, we're talking about the 4 V's of data. So large volume of data. Yeah, we're talking about the high velocity of the data, something that's changing, data coming in very fast, and then wide variety. Yeah, so this will keep reminding you these are some of the changes that are happening out there that we're trying to see how do we start changing the narrative around how we do analytics. And maybe just to show you how we can leverage on this opportunity by looking at what happens traditionally. So just look at this reporting in today's marketplace. Yeah, so just take a moment to read that. For example, financial statements, so they're used by existing stakeholders. Now, on the left is a list of stakeholders, on the right is how they use it. Now, these are the kind of stakeholders or dependencies you have for your day-to-day analytics. So you may have your company leadership, so they want to use the analytics to make decisions that may affect organization's continued operations. You have prospective investors, including shareholders, who want to access the success and ability of investing in your business. You have financial institutions, banks, and other lending companies that might want to carry out a decision to lend money to your organization. You've got government entities. This is where the regulatory compliance comes in, who might want to provide the financial health of the institution. So one case example is the Central Bank of Kenya. And the case going on now is Spire Bank. Spire Bank, because of the regulatory compliance, the audit report that is submitted has revealed that they are operating at a loss. So, which shows that there's a need to re-inject capital into the bank. Yeah, so those are the kind of analytic uses that we see in the organization. Then vendors, so vendors who want to credit also, you might want to check your creditworthiness and ascertain whether you're a good fit to do business with. And then the media and general public, always wanting to report about the performance of the organization and seeing how they can create a positive report about stakeholder, your PR. It's something which we call now the green agenda. Yeah, so the green narrative is a report that pushed by the SDGs, where organizations are required to be reporting about their green agenda. Yeah, so we can see that a lot of interests are coming in from different quarters, and this is some of the areas that external reliance of your data analytics report. So let's move in a little bit closer. These are the types of metrics. Yeah, for example, and I chose to use an example from HR because it cuts across and we all understand what they mean. Yeah, so the level of metrics vary from best, where there's no data or no metrics, to the highest level, which we use complex index metrics. So when you go to the site that I put there earlier, this is the kpis.predictiveanalytics.co.ke. I would like you to just go in there, click, and then this is the description. So we have some simple metrics. So just click on that link and then identify which is a simple metric, which one is a calculated metric. So calculated metrics is one you can calculate. It's a ratio. Maybe it's an overhead. A simple metric is just like you just count and that's it. Singular. You don't need to do any computation. Calculated metric is whatever. When you do the ratios as described here, you've got insightful metrics. So these are metrics, for example, revenue per full-time employee. Yeah. So you do a ratio which gives you an insight about some net performance or some measure. We also have advanced metrics. So advanced metrics combines calculated metrics, e.g., career path ratio. Yeah. This is a combination for different metrics. Then we have combined source metrics, e.g., time to profitability. So this has got like 4 or 5 dimensions in it, because your profitability itself is a matrix. Then you've got time. Yeah, so when you do it, it's called combined source metrics. Then we've got index metrics. So an index, yeah, so it's something that is expressed in the form of percentage or 0 to 1. Yeah, so e.g., new hire success rate. Yeah. Then we've got complex index metrics. So these complex index metrics are mostly qualitative metrics which cannot be quantified in terms of mechanical attributes, but they're more nuanced behavioral attributes. Yeah, but of course you can quantify behavior and measure different behavior. So I just want us to do a short exercise. Sorry, if you are driving, then it will be a challenge for you to go offline. I mean, to the link, but just this is for the guys who are using their desktops. Yeah. So I just want you to quickly go and log into this website. Either kpis.predictiveanalytics.co.ke. That one, I'm gonna reshare it again. Whenever I go to that, to this. Sorry, it's the same thing. Pick the right one. So choose any of those, click browse through, then choose a matrix, and then tell me whether it's simple, calculated, insightful, advanced. Yeah, so I'm just going to draw an example here. So I'll just do and net promoter. So this is the advanced. So I want you to give me some examples from those two links. Choose any matrix and just define what kind of matrix it is. Yeah, thank you, Mercy. So customer turnover rate. Yeah, it's a calculated matrix. Good. Another attempt. Yeah, thank you, Ken. Customer complaints. Yeah, simple metric. All right. Sanjay, thank you. Customer retention rate, calculated metrics, then customer profitability, simple metrics. Yeah, good. So we have a range of matrices, and they all fit uh, in this ladder. Yeah. So what I want you to realize is that the higher you move, the more analytic value it contains. Yeah. So as we start building the business models, you'll see very simple algorithms down here. Yeah. So there'll be very simple algorithms, things like mean, standard deviation. Then as you move up, we start moving to linear regression, random forest classifier, because then it gets a bit messy here. We start looking at more new types of data, but down the ladder, it's very simple kind of metrics. It's also encouraged that we start building on this stack using very basic metrics, but as we learn and we acquire new types of data, we can challenge ourselves, such using more complex metrics. So this is just an example perhaps you can reflect upon it using those two links I shared. Go and extract some proper analytics and metrics use cases for your organization from that list. And then you can challenge yourself with what are you measuring now? What do you need to start to measure? What are the types of data? But as you do that, I want to move to the next, which shows you the different ways to start these analytics. Yeah. So as you go around selecting, there's a certain guideline that you can use. So I don't want you just to go and start it haphazardly, but there's a certain way that you can guide you. So number one, you can be driven by a crisis, change, and need. So for example, a major company crisis occurs, things like mergers, acquisitions, or reorganization. Just think about any instance within organization or any instance that your client is undergoing. Challenge them with a need to do that analytics. So if you have a project you're running for deploying a new system, yeah. So let's see, how can you start doing analytics around the usage of that platform? Yeah, you have another approach that's data driven. Also, try to identify what data do you already have. Okay? So avoid scenarios where you're choosing complex analytics that might need you to deploy a system to start acquiring the data. Yeah. So for instance, in HR systems, we have a tool which we've taken you through before, but for the new participants, I'll take you through it. A tool that does the prediction of our employee attrition. So it requires some data set for biometric, which measures um, uh, 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 the biometric, which measures the presence of an employee in the building. So that gives you the amount of time that an employee spends within the work environment. So if you do not have that biometric equipment in place, then that model will not work. So first you need to start going to convince management to buy a biometric equipment, install it, do the whole behavior change, ensuring that every employee uses it. Yeah. So some of the clients I meet already have that data, but they don't know how to use it. So those needs are valid. Okay? Another third approach is piloting a program. So select a test group, and using that test group, see how you can first of all test flow. Yeah, instead of going to a big metric and measuring the whole organization, start small, see the results, define what the results mean to the organization, and then extrapolate those findings and try to have a larger data set. The fourth way is strategically driven. So in the context of HR, for instance, aligning a workforce strategy with business strategy. Yeah. So you start with your departmental KPIs. For instance, the idea will be about we need to have data scientists in our team. So how does that relate when the business strategy says that we are going to be data first? So what does that mean to the workforce? Yeah. So you start calculating what within this workforce, how many people do we need to train? How many guys need to have exposure to the data science skills? How do we go around it? So this kind of metrics actually help you. These are just 4 top ways that you can use to drive strategy within the organization. I want to move to the next part, which is about quantification. So I want to use a real example of how do we go from human capital to financials with actionable data. Okay, so I'm going to use the balance scorecard. Yeah, the balance scorecard. Yeah, which has got 4 dimensions. So you've got the finance dimension, you've got the innovation and learning dimension, you've got the customer dimension, and the internal human capacity dimension. Okay, so the high level linkage model plus quantifying the talent management life cycle. So this is how it works. So after looking at the key imperative within your department, yeah, so the human capital is concerned about recruiting, training, mobility, moving staff from one department to the other, engagement of the employees, leadership, and then retention. Okay, so the human capital delivers into operations and business. Yeah. So under operations and business, so what you're concerned about, these are the types of data that you'll be measuring. days worked, yeah, the cycle time, the quantity, and the quality of work. Yeah, so of course, how do you measure quality? Quality of work will be measured through uh, quality assurance, for example, ISO certification, customer reviews, uh, the length or the lifeline of products. Quantity is a simple metrics. This could be just an account will give you the quantity. When you move to the customer, yeah, so what do you measure under the customer? So you measure things like satisfaction, you've got a net promoter score, you've got price per margin, retention, and return rate of products. Yeah, so when you revisit these other links that I shared, those are the metrics that come under these pillars. But other financials, you measure the revenue, yeah, expenses, the profits, the assets and liabilities. Yeah. So these linkages, yeah, the key data points that you measure. Yeah. So when you put this in an analytic funnel and combine now with the, for example, recruitment and hiring, training and learning and development, performance and engagement, mobility, career path, you start to see how you can be able to quantify the talent management life cycle. How does this affect, for instance, when you hire a new team, yeah, how does it affect production? Yeah? So the new team, how quick does it settle in? Have you trained them well? Do they have the new skills required to drive the needs of the customers that are emerging? And after all those needs of the customer that are emerging, are they able to meet the expectations and raise the financial capabilities of the organization? Yeah, so this is just a view to make you break away from a silo mentality. Because one of the challenges we experience as data scientists is when you're allocated a department, you stick to it. You don't actually know what happens beyond your department. So it's important that you have a view. Yeah. So if you're in finance, try to look at customer data. Yeah, try to see what are customers saying about a product. Yeah. What are these scores? Price per margin, retention, what's the return rate? Why? So you do what's called reverse engineering. So when you see, for example, your profit declining or your expenses going high, try to move and check under operations and business. Why is this happening? Okay. So there's some dashboards that's why we encourage dashboards. The beauty of dashboards is they give you access to real-time data. And you as a custodian, for example, in finance, you can request for specific information from operations of the business, but every day you're able to see what's happening. In HR, you can request for the same, a dashboard from the business side, so that you're creating a linkage between the business and what you're doing in your department. Now, this helps you as an individual to get a seat on the table when decisions are being made because you have a full view of what's happening within the organization. And I want to move a step further by just showing you a practical example of how some of this is being applied. For instance, if you sit in isolation, this is a position profiling, yeah, predictive modeling, and fact-based decision. Okay, so this is a grid that shows you how you can combine employee recruitment, performance, compensation, turnover, retention, and development to create a complete wholesome picture. Yeah. Now, under employee, when you're doing recruitment, the things that you ask, for example, are education and experience. Yeah, you might ask transaction history. You might ask supervisor and employee history. Yeah, so the places that they worked before, how much they used to earn. You might ask supervisor history, which means that uh, you get a view of how the performance was before. Okay, so when recruiting, you start asking data around metrics and reports. Yeah, what are the best or worst hiring sources? Yeah, so depending on where you're sourcing your talent from, are you advertising on the newspaper? Are you doing word of mouth? Are you using lead? Are you headhunting? Or basic recruiting profiles? And then in performance, you look at performance report metrics. Yeah, uh, ratings, distribution curve, ratings by units, locations. Yeah. So when an employee is finally recruited, you start looking at the performance, and at that stage, you look at this kind of metrics. If you look further downstream, how do you develop this employee? So after looking at this data, you start realizing the gaps that the employees have, but do you bridge that gap? Yeah, so we call it learning and development. Yeah, so you create employee training plans using this data up here. Yeah, succession planning, perhaps they need to be promoted, they need to be given an extra challenge, or skills and training database. So which shows you so and so is due for upgrade, so and so due for uh, uh, maybe a new vendor tool has come up, so they need to be updated with that knowledge about that. Then we go turnover and retention. Yeah. So if an employee is not performing according to task, so you need to exit them. Yeah. If they are looking for another position, so how do you retain them? So the best employees in making sure they stay with you, but the weak ones making sure that they exit because they're going to be a cost to the organization. Then the final part is about compensation. So even the employees that you're retaining, what are some of the compensation options for you? So there's a new era of compensation called stock option. Yeah, and those will be pursuing your HR and finance analytics. We'll be showing you how you can use linear regression to calculate uh, salary increments or stock option. Yeah, so the listed companies or companies that have been capitalized can be able to use stock options as a way of incentivizing the employees, yeah, to stay and be more dedicated to the day-to-day work. Yeah. So there's also compensation in terms of internal versus external pay equity. So if you're in HR or finance, I want to know whether you have that database of salaries, yeah, for your competitors. Do you have industry salaries? This is apart from the ones in government, because I know government payroll is always published. You can find it online. But in the corporate, maybe we can just type here a quick comment. Salary database in bracket external. Any person with an organization that, or you've worked in an organization which has had a salary database? Okay. Any ideas? Okay, Miss. Yeah. So if you have one based on industry, more research is being done to update the database. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you why this is important. Yeah. So in a very highly competitive industries, most organizations are ripped off by unfair practices by employees. So guys will go, for example, to a competitor and negotiate for a package. And once they're given the offer, they come back and tell you, oh, I'm going. Yeah, so I need you to get for compensation for me. Yeah. So you increase you match or even offer more than what your internal capabilities are. So we find that most employees start holding the uh, employers at ransom. And this is mostly prominent. I think my years in the media, I saw that happening quite a lot. So you can find the smaller media ones were unable to afford talent because of that practice abuse. So people are really abusing that privilege of being poached and giving a counter offer. So we're starting to see an emergence of new types of compensation schemes, stock option. Yeah. So as I said, we designed an algorithm specifically to help you determine what how how far you can increase your salary. What's the break-even point? So because at some point it becomes counter. counterproductive. Yeah. So let's look at the next slide here. Okay. So for example, how do you measure workforce productivity? Yeah. So it's the amount of goods, services, production of work unit produced at a given uh, amount, time given amount of output. So some of the things that you need to quantify: units of production. So depending on your industry, you might need to understand what is the basic unit that I'm using to produce this output. What are the new products? What are some of the inventions? One of the key areas that we face a challenge in is to quantify IP. Yeah. So in an industry like it's scoring. So how do you, for example, quantify an employee who's come up with a credit score algorithm, yeah, that is making the organization have a unique business? Yeah. You've seen technology companies, for example, like the guy who invented M-Pesa. How do you make him? How do you compensate? He's created an innovation. Yeah. For example, do you ever ask yourself, the guy who invented Fuliza, yeah, what is he up to? Is he an employee? Is he a shareholder? Or what kind of compensation can you be able to create to such a guy? Yeah. So these are the kind of discussions that we try to grapple with to come up with what we call now innovations and areas of compensation that make us stick with this talent for long. We also have technology and assets. Yeah. So how do you quantify technology? Yeah. So we are talking now about platform business, and much later this course will be showing you how to build a platform business and how technology is being used to give birth. So technology combined with data is giving birth to new assets. Yeah. So I will be showing you now the new narrative uh, of data evolution, why data is now sitting on the balance sheet as a value derivative. Just following the example of Google, Google has had us mountains and mountains of data. They're using that data, they've been able to reinvent new products. If you go to Europe, whenever you're looking for example, if you go to, you're looking for a bank loan, or if you allow me to quickly go back to this slide where I'm showing you where data is used here, yeah. So, for example, governments will start to ask, how much data do you have about your customers? Finance institutions, yeah. So they're starting to reconnect with a key asset that they can give you funding or loan based on the amount of data that you have. Of course, companies like Branch, are funded by VCs. Yeah. So Branch will go and say, in fact, it's a leading company right now in Africa, which attracts the most funding, yeah, from venture capitalists. So it will go and say our loan portfolio is now at 2 million customers. That alone speaks volume. Yeah. So we are starting to see now technology combined with data is becoming an asset that's driving uh, uh, investors, yeah, or company equity. Okay. So that's just an example that I was giving you, using that for outputs. So when you look at outputs, so data, technology, is a key driver of outputs. So you need to see how to quantify it. So there's a question here from Dennis. So any write-up on internal and internal pay equity you have? Okay, so this is just an algorithm which we can help you design, because I think I mentioned that we can show you how to use linear regression, yeah, to calculate that. And because these are variables that vary from industry to industry. Yeah, so I think we'll be able to go through that. Then the other part is inputs. So on the inputs, you have labor costs, which is the work cost, you have material costs, time and speed of production. We have technology, processes, and tools again. So key things that you need to measure, and then all of it going into productivity. So profit, quality, efficiency, and satisfaction. So this is just a view, just perhaps to help you understand where this conversation is built towards. So when we look at advanced productivity analysis, so for example, what is the ROI of our investment in the workforce? How do you measure that? So that's a way of saying advanced metrics. Yeah. We also have trend analysis and forecasting. Yeah. So that's is productivity increasing, decreasing, or remaining static. So if you're looking at a P&L of an organization, and you ask yourself this question, so this trend analysis, so we'll be showing you, for example, how you can use time series analysis to do the trend analysis. Someone also mentioned about benchmarking. Yeah. So compared to competition, are we leading or lagging? We'll be showing you what leading indicators are and what lagging indicators are. Yeah. So leading indicators are indicators that show you about the future. Yeah. For example, if you do invest in data science right now, you have a bright future in extending your shelf life. Yeah. In the corporate sector you have, or if you're in consulting, the consulting sector that you're in. Lagging indicator, these are indicators that shows you things that have already lapsed. So for example, the fact that you're making a loss now is because you did not have good sales last year. Yeah. So our focus in analytics will be more on leading indicators. Yeah. We want to build more forecasting capabilities rather than lagging indicators. So in as much as we are doing a lot of this, we don't want to encourage you to do this. We'll only be using this as a test and training set. Yeah, so when we be looking at data analysis techniques, we'll be splitting our data into two types, testing and training. Yeah, a testing set and a training set. So that's the only historical data we'll be using. But the agenda will be to forecast about the future. Okay, so here we talk about detailed workforce modeling and hypothesis testing. Yeah, so we'll be showing you exactly how to set hypotheses. For example, in the context of HR, we segment workforce into groups, link workforce metrics to ROI using maybe talent cycle, and start with top workforce questions. Okay? So those are some of the key ideas that I can give you for now of creating this panel competitive insights in the organization. Now, I just wanted to show you, for example, value creation in today's marketplace. Yeah, we are moving away from an era where tangible assets. So, for example, the amount of land that you own as an organization drives you, drives your value. Okay, so we have tangible assets versus intangible assets. So some of the tangible assets, yeah, so measures are well established as modern finance as a decision supporting science, but intangible assets, market value driven by factors not on balance sheet, e.g. intellectual or human capital, and I will add data. Okay, so this is increasing. So the value of employees. So that's why we talk about the Silicon Valley. We have startups, companies that have no infrastructure at all. Look at Branch, for instance. Look at Tala. They don't even own, any building locally. Yeah, but they're giving banks a run for their money. So most banks have invested in brick and mortar. So their physical presence means that they're able to do heavy customer acquisition. Yeah, but when you look at the value in the balance sheet, that value is declining. Okay? Yeah, so I'd like to just to encourage you to see that transition, how you can be moving from one aspect of tangible assets moving into intangible assets. The value of intangible assets is continuing to grow, as you can see this trend. So let's continue paying attention to data. Data is going to be, when you say data is a natural resource, data is the new oil. This is what exactly it means. So data is not, it's an intangible asset. So as I've mentioned to you that we're now seeing the balance sheet being written differently. You're going to see now data being included alongside assets, yeah, in the balance sheet to show the value of a company. Just spend your time, look at the valuations of organizations now, especially in Europe. You see that a clear indication about the value of those companies. Okay, so this is just a small exercise for you. Okay, so the total cost of workforce. So why is it important? So I'm gonna email this. I think I'll put it on Slack. I've already uploaded this presentation on Slack, but I will give you this exercise so that you can have something to reflect over the discussion that we've had today, as we try to build an argument around metrics and the level of metrics and analytics that you need to extract for your organization. Yeah, so this will come in the form of an assignment. So when you see it, please just know that it's reflective of today's topic. Okay, so as you come to a close of this exercise, just want to summarize. So, for example, these are the steps that might need to take. Yeah, when you're looking at analytics, and I took an example of human capital analytics because it's a little bit more harder to measure. So first, identify top workforce trends and questions. 2, identify hypotheses about critical workforce issues. 3, assess and collect data. Identify data availability to test hypotheses, merge data from multiple sources. Yeah, so this is the variety that we're talking about, including using the balance scorecard. You have finance, customer, and operational data, and internal resources. You've looked at which data you can use to combine that. Yeah, so then now we'll be focusing more in the lab about data consolidation, preparation, and analysis, because we've talked about special tools we use using Python for this analysis, linear regression. We'll be looking at visualization and statistical models. Yeah, these are the things that are coming ahead, seeing how you can apply that in day-to-day operations, either you're in finance, you're in marketing, HR, how you can be able to apply this in that context. For those of you who are running consulting businesses, also we want to show you how you can challenge the organization that you consult for to build that capability across different verticals, so that at least your role is not confined to what they know you for, but now you can provide a dashboard that can do pretty much everything. But more importantly, linkage to business outcomes, including revenue, profit, costs. Yeah, so it's important to create, for example, a dashboard that can look at the entire performance of an organization with a view of ROI. Yeah. Lastly, the analytic and planning journey. So some of the roadblocks and pitfalls on the path. Yeah, you might experience data gaps, consistent data. There may be gaps in executive support, standards governance, the job framework and mapping, resource and analytic skills, data integration, system limitation, ROI. So next week, I would like to pick up from here. We'll be looking at these barriers and how you're able to overcome them. So we'll be looking at each of these barriers step by step. Some of them are within your control, some of them are not within your control. For instance, things like data gaps and inconsistent data. We're going to show you how you can use Python using the pandas library and NumPy to clean data, get consistency. Now, executive support is something that we will be showing you how you can create that. We've been telling you that you need to, first of all, be a data evangelist. Yeah, so besides acquiring these skills here, for those of you who've been able to change the LinkedIn profile, get into media, start writing articles, starting to speak in events, so becoming the go-to, the champion of data within your organization. So there's a checklist that we'll be following to ensure that you win executive support. People are able to trust you as an authority in that area and give you the support that you need. Yeah, so these are the pitfalls. Yeah, so you can see from when you start the key areas all the way and move to world-class analytics. Yeah, but we'll be there to work the entire journey to ensure that we anticipate those gaps, we're able to mitigate against them. Yeah, so we've got about 4 minutes. I just want to see whether we have any questions, but this is the end of the presentation. Yeah, so what do you expect ahead? So we'll be having the first session for cohort 3 this Saturday. Yeah, so the session will be at Barclays flagship. I'll send the link for that session. So we start at 8:30. The data engineering class already started the session on Monday. So you continue having your session. We'll be having a second session next week on Monday. The other group, cohort 1, is also meeting at University of Nairobi, Chiromo, same lab. So you'll be continuing with your data visualization together with Derek. Yeah, and the cohort 2 have taken a break, so they'll be meeting on the 27th of April. Yeah, so it will be a longer session. It will be full of Python that day. There'll be nothing else you'll be doing apart from coding. So make sure you come with a lot of patience to learn on a long day. Yeah, but see you next week on Wednesday. Dennis, yes, there'll be a recorded for yesterday. Yes, it's already there. So we'll just upload it. So I think Kevin is online. He's had the request to upload it. Maybe if he hasn't already uploaded. Yeah. So let's continue being good champions of data within your organizations and within your spheres of influence. Let's continue having that narrative of data. Yeah. So any other question or comment?